Imagine a quiet evening, the kind where the only sound is the settling of the house. You look at a notification on your screen, a message from someone you've known for years or even decades. Instead of joy, you feel a heavy, physical wave of exhaustion. For years, they kept these connections on life support, driven by guilt and the shared history of old friends. But recently, that obligation has dissolved into a desperate need for peace. This isn't a sudden bitterness. It is a profound psychological maturation. As the Stoic philosopher Seneca noted long ago, we are often fiercely protective of our property, yet we let others trespass on our time and spirit without a second thought. You aren't becoming antisocial. You are simply safeguarding the quiet truth inside you. There is a difference between loyalty and self-betrayal. If you have started to let go of people who no longer hear you, it doesn't mean you are broken. It means you are finally listening to yourself. But there is a hidden reason why this happens now, at this stage of life. Stay with me, because the relief you feel is trying to tell you something important. Let's look at this feeling of exhaustion a little closer. It is rarely about a single event. It isn't usually a massive fight or a dramatic betrayal that ends these decades-long friendships. It is something much quieter and in many ways much harder to explain to the outside world. It is the slow, accumulating realization that the person you are today no longer fits into the box that your old friends built for you 20 or 30 years ago. For a long time, you tried to squeeze yourself back into that box. You attended the dinners where the conversation looped around the same superficial topics. You laughed at the same repetitive jokes that ceased to be funny a decade ago. You nodded along to complaints that felt like they were draining the very marrow from your bones. You performed the role of the good friend, the reliable one, the person they remembered from high school or your first job. But every time you returned home, you felt a hollowness, a specific kind of fatigue that sleep couldn't fix. You might have sat in your car in the driveway, delaying the moment you had to go inside, just trying to recover your own energy. This is what psychologists often refer to as role fatigue. In long-term relationships, dynamics tend to calcify. If you are the listener, the passive one, or the joker in your 20s, your old friends often subconsciously demand that you remain that person in your 50s or 60s. They rely on your predictability to anchor their own identities. But you have lived a life. You have suffered through losses they might not understand. You have grown in silence. You have discovered the sanctuary of your own company. And when you try to bring this new, deeper version of yourself to the old table, it is often met with confusion, indifference, or subtle mockery. They don't want the real you. They want the familiar you. And so, the act of letting go begins not with malice, but with a simple inability to pretend anymore. It is the exhaustion of an actor who has been on stage for too long, finally walking off into the wings because the mask has become too heavy to wear. There is an immense guilt that comes with this, of course. We are conditioned by society to believe that longevity equals depth. We are told that old friends are gold, and that cutting ties is a sign of instability or selfishness. You might look at old photographs, faded images of weddings, graduations, or trips taken 30 years ago, and feel a pang of nostalgia. You wonder if you are becoming cold-hearted. You might ask yourself, am I the problem? Am I just intolerant? Why can't I just suck it up like everyone else? But consider this carefully. History is not the same thing as connection. Just because you have known someone for a long time does not mean they belong in your future. In fact, sometimes the length of the friendship is exactly what blinds us to its toxicity. We forgive behaviors in old friends that we would never tolerate in a stranger, simply because that's just how they are. We allow them to trample our boundaries, criticize our choices, or use us as emotional dumping grounds because we share a past. But a shared past is not enough to sustain a shared present. Seneca, in his letters, wrote extensively about the value of time and the tragedy of wasting it. He argued that while we are stingy with our money, guarding our bank accounts with passwords and security, we are incredibly wasteful with our time. We hand out hours of our lives to people who do not value them. We let people steal our peace, our focus, and our emotional reserves. Seneca reminds us that time is the one thing we can never get back. When you spend 3 hours at a dinner party feeling drained, empty, or unseen, you are not just hanging out. You are spending the limited currency of your life. You are trading a portion of your existence for a performance that leaves you feeling worse than when you started. At this stage of your journey, whether you are 50, 60, or beyond, you have likely realized that time is not infinite. The horizon is visible now. And with that visibility comes a shift in priorities. The tolerance for drama has evaporated. The patience for superficial gossip has run dry. The willingness to sit in one-sided conversations where you are merely an audience member is gone. This isn't because you are grumpy or bitter. It is because you have finally realized the value of your own peace. You have tasted the sweetness of a quiet afternoon. You know the clarity of a solitary walk. You cherish the freedom of not having to explain yourself to anyone. And once you have tasted that nectar, the cost of admission for your inner circle goes up drastically. It is important to distinguish this from isolation. To the outside world, it might look like you are withdrawing, but internally, you are not building a wall to keep everyone out. You are building a gate to protect the garden within. Isolation is fear-based. It comes from a place of avoiding pain or hiding from the world. Solitude and the conscious curation of your circle is value-based. It comes from a place of preserving peace and honoring your own nervous system. Let's talk about the specific types of old friends that often cause this drain. First, there is the crisis friend. This is the person who only calls when their world is falling apart. For decades, you were their therapist, their savior, their emergency contact. Perhaps, in your younger years, you enjoyed this role. It made you feel needed. It gave the friendship a sense of purpose. But as you matured, you realized that their crises were often self-inflicted loops. They didn't want solutions. They wanted attention. Your role was not to help them grow, but to enable their stagnation. Walking away from a crisis friend feels like abandonment. It triggers every good person instinct you have. But true friendship is a partnership of equals, a sharing of virtue and mind, not a parasitic dependency. By stepping away, you are not only saving your own energy, you are forcing them to face their own lives without you as a crutch. It is a form of tough love, but it is love nonetheless. Love for yourself and ultimately a refusal to participate in their dysfunction. Then there is the geographical friend, the person you were close to simply because you lived next door, or because you worked in the same office cubicle for 10 years, or because your children went to the same school and played on the same soccer team. These friendships were born of proximity, not affinity. They were convenient. They filled the time. But when the proximity ends, when you move, retire, or the kids grow up, the glue dissolves. Trying to force these connections to continue across distance and time is often a futile exercise in nostalgia. You meet up for lunch, and after the initial "how are the kids" update, there is nothing left to say. You stare at your salad, searching for a topic, realizing you have nothing in common with this person other than a zip code you used to share. It is okay to acknowledge that the friendship served its purpose for a season of life. And it is okay to acknowledge that the season has passed. Before we continue deeper into how to navigate this transition without drowning in guilt, I want to invite you to join this quiet corner of the internet. If you are tired of the noise and are looking for a place that values depth over breadth, you are among friends here. We are building a community of people who understand that a small life is not a failed life. If this resonates with you, consider subscribing to share this silence with us. Now let's address the fear of regret. The nagging voice that says, "What if I need them later? What if I end up with no one? What if I am making a terrible mistake and will die alone?" This is a valid fear, especially as we age. We see the world shrinking. We see family members passing away. The instinct is to grab onto whatever connections we have, no matter how poor their quality, just to have someone. But holding on to draining people out of fear of loneliness is a guarantee of a specific kind of misery. It is the loneliness of being with people who do not understand you. And that is far more painful than the solitude of being by yourself. When you are alone, you can be your own best friend. When you are with people who drain you, you are alienated from yourself. When you clear the dead wood from your forest, you allow new growth. This doesn't necessarily mean replacing every old friend with a new best friend. It might mean finding a few acquaintances who share a specific interest. A book club where you discuss ideas, not people. A walking group where the focus is on nature, not drama. A class where you learn something new. These are connections that are lighter, less burdened by history. They are based on who you are now, not who you were in high school. Or it might mean finding deep satisfaction in the company of animals. Many people in our community find that the connection with a dog or a cat provides a purity of companionship that human relationships often lack. There is no judgment in the eyes of a dog. There is no expectation of performance from a cat. There is just presence. This is not a consolation prize for not having humans. It is a valid, profound, and often superior form of connection for the sensitive soul. The process of letting go doesn't always have to be a dramatic breakup. You don't need to write a manifesto. You don't need to have a screaming match in a restaurant. In fact, the most mature way to let go is often the slow fade. You simply stop initiating. You stop over-explaining your no. You decline invitations politely but firmly. I can't make it this time, but thank you for asking. You allow the distance to grow naturally. This is the soft power of the introvert. You are not attacking them. You are simply withdrawing your energy. You are redirecting your limited resources toward things that nourish you. Your home, your hobbies, your health, your peace. Some old friends may react with anger. They may accuse you of changing. You've changed, they will say, as if it were an insult. And the truth is, you have changed. You have evolved. You have stopped apologizing for your needs. Their anger is often a reflection of their own fear that they are losing their audience. Fear that they are losing their emotional crutch. Fear that your growth highlights their stagnation. You can have compassion for their reaction without accepting responsibility for it. You are not responsible for managing other people's emotions. You are only responsible for living your own life with integrity. Letting go is, in many ways, an act of grief. Even if the friendship was draining, there is a loss. You are losing a witness to your youth. You are losing someone who knew your parents. You are losing someone who knew you before you had grey hair. It is important to honor that grief. Allow yourself to feel sad. Cry if you need to. Look at the old photos and say a silent thank you for the good times. But do not mistake grief for a mistake. You can miss someone and still know that they are not good for you. You can love someone from a distance. As you navigate this, you will find that your definition of friendship changes. You stop looking for a squad or a large circle to validate your popularity. You start valuing quality over quantity. You realize that one person who truly gets you is enough. One person who can sit in silence with you. One person who asks how you are and actually waits for the answer. That is worth more than 50 people who only want to talk about themselves. And if you don't have that one person yet, that is okay too. You are building a foundation of self-reliance. You are learning to be the friend to yourself that you always wanted others to be. You are treating yourself with kindness. You are taking yourself on dates. You are listening to your own body. This is the prerequisite for any future healthy relationship. You cannot attract a healthy connection until you have stopped tolerating unhealthy ones. The space you create by letting go is a sanctuary. It is a place where you can finally breathe. You might find that your physical health improves. Less tension headaches, better sleep, less anxiety in the pit of your stomach. The body keeps the score, and it knows when you are around people who are not safe for your nervous system. When you remove those stressors, your body exhales. Think of your energy like a bank account. For years, you have been allowing automatic withdrawals from people who never made a deposit. You were running on a deficit, constantly overdrawn emotionally. Letting go is simply cancelling those automatic payments. Suddenly, you have resources available. You have energy to read, to create, to garden, to simply be. This is the wisdom of the private person. The private person is not hiding, they are preserving. They understand that their inner world is a garden that needs protection from trampling feet. They are selective about who gets a key to the gate, and this selectivity makes the connections they do keep incredibly precious. If you are in the midst of this transition, know that the guilt will fade. It will be replaced by a growing sense of lightness. You will start to look forward to your days, knowing that they belong to you. You will realize that you are not responsible for validating everyone else's existence. The empty chair at your table is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of standards. It is a sign that you respect yourself enough to wait for the right kind of company, or to enjoy the meal alone. Schopenhauer spoke of the aristocracy of the mind. He suggested that those with a rich inner life are less dependent on the external world for happiness. By letting go of draining old friends, you are claiming your place in that aristocracy. You are declaring that your mind is a place of value. It is not a public square for anyone to loiter in. It is a private library, a sanctuary. So, tonight, if you look at your phone and feel that wave of exhaustion, listen to it. It is your intuition speaking. It is your soul telling you that you have outgrown the shell. It is time to stop apologizing for your growth. It is time to embrace the peace you have earned. But as you close the door on these past connections, a new question inevitably arises. When the noise stops and the silence truly settles in, you are left with the one person you can never walk away from. And for many, that meeting is the most terrifying of all. Because once you stop performing for others, you have to face who you really are when the audience is gone. And that confrontation, that is where the real work begins. Alone together. A quiet corner of the internet for people who choose solitude over half-hearted connections.